All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another week with Sex with Kat and Mark. And here we're going to be talking with Ryan. So he's actually an accountant managing the adult industry, essentially. So Ryan, do you want to tell us just a little bit about what exactly you do?
Yeah, no, that's easy, guys. Thank you for having me part of the podcast. It's been pretty cool to watch and, watch you guys grow and that sort of stuff in the first couple of episodes anyway. So basically what we do is we manage an accounting practice that specializes in the sex industry effectively. We look after the finance side, bookkeeping, tax compliance, ASIC regulations, loans, pretty much anything you need to do to touch pen and paper, really. That's kind of what we specialize in. And we just kind of, niched down on the sex industry, obviously, with a bit of my background being in the sex industry. I thought, I had a few friends asking me questions, and I thought, well, I can niche down on this, I can do this. So I basically grabbed my team and off we went. We rebranded and pushed a little bit hard down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I want to talk about your experience in the sex industry, because that's very interesting. In preparation to the interview, I went on your website, and the first, your business website, the first thing that pops up is chiseled Adonis looking abs with boxer shorts and this little bulge there. I was like, I'm sorry, am I on an accounting page or am I on OnlyFans?
Kat's like, this is the best accounting site I've ever been on. What is going on? Tell us about your experience in the sex industry. How did you even get into accounting from that? Yeah,
so I started obviously as an accountant. That's where I kind of wanted to be effectively, crunching numbers and all that sort of stuff. However, when you start off in accounting, you're not paid very well, especially for the amount of hours that you're effectively doing. I liked training, obviously. I was competing in Muay Thai at the time. So, I was a bit, on the leaner side effectively more so than these days. So I tried to get into something and find something that could actually make me a little bit more money while I was, studying to become an accountant. And that kind of, the first thing I did was obviously like any, young 18, 19-year-old, you try down the security route. And unfortunately, the old man was an ex-security guard at the time, or, a few years ago, and said, no, you're definitely not doing that. So I had to find something else. Find something else to do to make us a little bit of money. So unfortunately, I could not find anything for the life of me. I did a physique competition, and then I got approached by a friend, and he said, you should do topless waitering. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can walk around and, the beach and that sort of stuff. So we joined a company called Liquid Infusion, which is run by a guy called Ben Newman, and started off as a topless waiter. And that was my introduction into the sex industry. And obviously once you start down the rabbit hole, you start the stripping and everything else like that. Tried to do our own topless waitering business, and we ended up joining the Magic Men, the Magic Men family. And obviously, 8-9 years later, here we are.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So your dad was like, listen, you can't be a security guard, but I'm all down for you doing topless. How did he feel about the topless waitressing?
My family never had an issue with it. Yeah. They thought it was a bit of a laugh, and they actually thought I was joking half the time until, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Obviously, I wasn't at home. I think my mum even nicknamed me Jesus at one point because I'd leave Thursday and come back Sunday.
That's gold.
So I'm curious. So you were already doing accounting when you then started doing, going into the sex industry. So kind of have two questions on that. So, first question is, was it just stripping and topless waitressing, waitering, or was it did you do anything more than that, like full service stuff? Oh, that's first. If you want to answer, that's first question. Second question is, So I've got 2 business degrees, and I know what the kind of business community is like. How did other people in the business circle take to you doing all of these things? Because I can just think about friends that I have that are still in business, and I don't know if they would particularly take a liking to that kind of thing, because they tend to be more on the conservative side. So I'm curious how you managed to kind of circumvent that.
Yep. So obviously, to answer your first question, I did do a few paid dates and that sort of stuff, but not full service. So that was kind of where we kind of pulled the pin at the full service part. And when I started, it was 2011, probably started 2012 is when we started getting into this work. So the social media side probably wasn't as big back then and as it is now. So you could kind of keep things a little bit more under wraps while I was starting up, until I got to, like a manager type level where I had probably a little bit more influence in these firms, that I started to kind of say, oh, this is what I do on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And obviously, they'll understand who you are and that sort of stuff. And it wasn't going to change anything. And unfortunately, it actually helped me attract a lot of clients, because they're like, oh, most accountants are really freaking boring. You're actually, relatively exciting. You can hold a conversation. What do you do differently? And then you kind of tell them, and it's a bit of a joke. And that's kind of how it all how it started, and kind of how we got into it. So we weren't too bad. Obviously, probably if it was starting now, the social media side means you got to publicize it a lot earlier. That's probably the bigger thing. But however, like generally businesses now and accounting firms in general, they're a lot more relaxed than what they used to be. Like we used to be full suit and tie. Now most accounting firms, like, chinos and a shirt, and that'd probably be dressy compared to what most of them are like now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Because that's, my impression, I'm not in this like business space, but my impression is that you would have got some fucking pushback.
That's
for
what
this,
I'm thinking.
It's also, but you mentioned you got to a point where it sounds like you had enough pull to then be like, all right, this is what's up.
Yeah, I feel like once you're a manager, that's kind of like.
Exactly. So do you think your work environment is more chill because of that specifically? Like, do you think that aspect of your personality and yourself has brought, like, other people feeling more relaxed about sharing maybe what they were up to on the weekend or what they were doing because of this?
Yeah, look, I reckon like in my specific team, so in accounting firms and that sort of stuff, you generally work in a team where you have like a partner, a manager, and like senior staff, junior staff, graduates, people that have just left high school, we call them cadets, in the team, where as soon as we're a bit more open and that sort of stuff in the team, it kind of gives the rest of the team to talk a little bit more openly, and did make our team probably more of a centerpiece effectively in the firm, because obviously it's a collection of teams, rather than, you're working for a 2,000 people organization where you're actually just working in small teams. It's not as scary as what most people think it is. It definitely gave a little bit more freedom and that sort of stuff. And most accountants like to drink on a Friday afternoon. You'll see most of them at the pubs and stuff like that. So, they do have a bit of loose lips when it comes to that sort of stuff. So, we made it a little bit more, I guess, putting a bit more of a team culture together. Nice. And that was probably the key part of it, really. And that's what helped us, I think, progress a little bit more. And even our clients, it allowed our clients to be a little bit more like, oh, you guys are human, not machines and that sort of stuff.
So
that was probably the big advantage.
Do you employ sex workers? Like, do you have sex workers in your employ currently?
Currently, I've got 2 topless waiters that, we've got as accountants and that as well. So ironically enough, as they started off as accountants and then found out that what we did, and they're like, oh, can we do it too? So, they're like, oh,
let's go.
We can do this as well. And I'm sitting there going, all right, no problem, guys. You got to put them on a diet plan and all that sort of stuff.
I wish it was like that when I was working in business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Might have still been there.
Yeah, it's kind of, having a dual life now is probably a little bit more common, more so than what it used to be. And probably in the last 3 years, OnlyFans really decided to push the envelope and all that sort of stuff, and it can be used for multiple things, and a few other people did really, really well out of it. So I think it should be encouraged to be able to push a second career if that's what you want to do, and have a side hustle, whatever the side hustle is. Doesn't matter.
Do you have an OnlyFans? Asking for a friend.
No. I didn't do an OnlyFans, unfortunately. I probably should have. I slowed down a little bit.
It's never too late. Kat will help you out. Yeah, get an OnlyFans going.
Bit of cross promotion, I reckon.
Exactly.
Yeah, slide into my DMs.
Yeah, have a few like topless pics with "Do you need an accountant?" Just get some traction. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting.
I can imagine the title of that. Two accountants going wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could be some good content. Yeah, you guys like doing paperwork or something?
No, hey, what people get up to hanging back in the audit room? Like
exactly. Yeah.
Bloody hell, that filing cabinet keeps rocking. The other annoying part was the only thing I found with the OnlyFans and all the spicy work and all that sort of stuff is they started using accountants as their advertising.
They did.
You know how much my pay per click went up?
That's cool.
Oh my God. Yeah, I got that as well. So yeah, back when I like used to be in business and I'd be like, yeah, I'm an accountant. People would be like, oh, okay. And I'm like, this is before I started doing sex. I was like, no, I actually am a real one. Like I promise. Now, okay.
Now you're an accountant.
Now I am the spicy one.
Accountant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm a spicy one now.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting getting into this niche, and I'm wondering what it's like with your client base dealing with people in the adult industry versus not, because I've got obviously a lot of friends that are in this space and girls I've dated in this space. And one thing I've realized is that we just as humans, I feel generally are bad with managing money, like most people, right? But then you take people that are now earning a lot of money, usually working somewhat for themselves, and put them in that space. I feel like they need mentoring or someone to help them out with that side of things, because I've got so many girls that like got into escorting, made all this money, and then either spent it all, like I don't know what to do for it, or like I need to pay tax, what do I declare, and it's so confusing. So I'm curious what your experience has been like working with clients in the adult industry versus not, and if there's a difference at all that you've noticed.
It would be hard, I imagine. Shoe boxes. If anything, and when they come to you, they're like, I haven't paid my tax ever. Yeah. And they're like 35.
5-6 years, yep. But probably sometimes, like, unfortunately, when you've got content creators and all sort of stuff, they don't take themselves very seriously. So that's probably the first, thing we have to sit down and actually, kind of nail down with them. What they got to look at is, as much as they want to put their real life and their content life together, which is kind of, being more accepted in what it used to be, they've still got to kind of separate their business life with their personal life. They've got to treat their, their content creation and that as a business. And that's kind of what we try to sit down and teach them from the start, so they can control their expenses. They're starting to budget. The old accounting approach where, we look at the past, we do all record keeping. In this industry, it's a lot more forward planning than it is back planning. And it's a lot more hand holding. So if you're looking at the accounting industry and you're looking for a place to make money, this is definitely not the industry based on time return. As accountants, we generally sell time. So I found that, like, obviously my ROI in time for my business clients is a lot higher than what it would say would be in this space specifically, because you can't charge $800 for an individual tax return for a sex worker. It doesn't matter how much money they're making. Like, if someone's making $1 million a year or someone's making $100,000 a year, it's an extra click of the zero. Like, the parameters around it don't actually change. The rules don't change. You're just dealing with an extra zero, which it doesn't take that much more work to press a zero. The only main difference is in the forward planning. And with forward planning of any client and that sort of stuff, it is a lot more hand holding. And then also the types of clients. So a lot of clients I've found, and even working in the industry and that sort of stuff with performers and everything else, they're a lot more, sporadic with how they are, generally speaking. Like, they're a lot more like fly by the seat of their pants, do what feels good for them and all that sort of thing. Or, and it's a lot harder to create good financial habits for, these people. And that's kind of what we try to do and try to coach. And it's a lot of kind of, let's do it this way. And then they, will change mind of how they want to invest their money. So one day they'll be talking about property, and then you'll set up a plan for them. You'll do all this work to set up what they want to do. And then they'll come back to you and start talking about crypto.
I'm going to Europe.
Oh, sorry, this reminds me of so many women I know. It's hilarious.
And like you'd be like, oh, cool. So you haven't spent any money this month, and then all of a sudden you'll see the brand new $5,000 Louis bag, and you'd be like, that's you. Why? Didn't we say no more spending and that sort of stuff? They're like, no. It was a gift. I'm like, it came out of your account. I can see it. Oh yeah. I'm like, no.
That's hilarious. And what about judgment? Because I'm imagining if you're in sex work, there's no matter who you are, you might feel a level of judgment or shame. And as Kat was mentioning, a lot of times when you go to an accounting firm, you're not going to meet someone like you, Ryan, that might be a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more chill, knows the space. And do you find that anyone's come to you and said that they felt a little bit worried about coming to an accountant with the work they were doing at all, or they don't really care so much? What's your experience been?
Yeah, look, most of our clients have come through back to us simply because of word of mouth, and we're a little bit more personal touch. I'm happy to text with you about random stuff because that trust build-up's there. I don't really care too much about what you do or all that sort of stuff. Like it's never really worried me because I've worked in the industry. But there probably is a lot of judgment out there, or I've actually had a lot of clients come to me who their advisor's probably been on the slightly, I guess you could say, creepy side effectively.
Yeah, right. I didn't think about that side.
Yeah, so they'll like take advantage of, or just slightly stuff that I'd probably say is probably slightly inappropriate.
Yeah.
Not, if there was a 80-year-old, old dude sitting in front of you, the accountant wouldn't do those questions or wouldn't ask those sort of things.
Yeah.
But they would ask it to, the sex worker and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and that's probably where it mainly, stems from effectively.
Yeah.
What about with having your CA? Like, so yeah, just asking as like, somebody who's like studied business myself, like, are you even able to like do sex work and have a CA?
Yeah, no. It's so to have I'm a chartered accountant, obviously. So CA, for those who don't know what a CA is. As long as you're a reasonable person and that sort of stuff and follow the rules and all the ethics and standards and stuff like that, there's no real downside to that type of thing, as long as you're not doing anything unethical. Realistically, like if you're crossing the line, you're crossing the line. So as long as you don't cross the ethical standards line, don't cheat, don't steal off people, all that sort of stuff. It's
sweet,
pretty much don't commit murder. Just a reasonable person's test is basically all it comes down to, really. And they're like, I've been talking with a few of the people at Charter Accountancy Australia and that sort of stuff, and generally speaking, they're pretty supportive of what we do, because they understand that there is a client base, there is a need out there, and that's kind of why I've kind of shifted the firm's focus from being a typical tax accounting firm for this industry, and we are probably pushing more into the education space, more so than the strict accounting. It's kind of not really you do accounting, tax returns and that sort of stuff. I can only do so many. Our team could only do so many. There's so many people out there. There's so many more people. I think, OnlyFans has had like a 600% jump in content creators in the last 18 months.
Yeah. And it's about to add one more very soon with you. So it's going to be even more very soon. Yeah, that's interesting.
You can see me building a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I think it's evolving, right? Because as you said, OnlyFans is like fucking. There's so many more people creating now. I wonder what the rules are around, because I used to be a nurse, right? So not only with CAs, but like with teachers, with nursing, things like that. I wonder if their boards are more open now to the idea of sex work. Do you know it all or no?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'd be curious to check that out.
I feel
because
like,
I'm sure there's so many more teachers and nurses now content creating as well.
Yeah,
so
I feel like
but
so many people have lost their jobs after being outed as like a sex worker, like in industries like that, more conservative industries. So I think that I don't think that traditions and like things like standard industry. I don't think they evolve like as quickly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they are.
Oh yeah, I hope so. Yeah, because I've heard so many stories of people like losing their jobs to like OnlyFans.
Because I would have been worried as a nurse coming out being like, I'm doing sex coaching and I'm teaching men. Like I think that would have been
100%.
But that was back. I'm old. Would have been back in the day. So maybe it's maybe it's changed.
I never would have done that either when I was like still working in businesses. No way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, well, it's a bit of an interesting one now. Like I think it's more when I hear about someone losing their job and that sort of stuff, I'll usually find that there's another few things that have added together. And this was always there's always a straw that breaks the camel's back. And that's what I've always kind of broken it down to. I've always been taught there's three sides to a story. One person's side, the other person's side, somewhere in the middle, there's the truth. And that's what I've kind of strongly believed that there's obviously something else that's gone wrong effectively. Probably 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, 100%, there would have been some stuff that people would have been doing, and if they were shooting porn, whatever they wanted to do, I'm sure they would probably seen that as dark back then. But I think people are coming a little bit more open to it.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
It's pretty cool to see.
I think so. Yeah.
I honestly feel like we're approaching a time where like there'll be more people doing some form of sex work than like not doing it.
Yeah. Even as you mentioned, right? Like even in the last couple of years, I feel like there's been a huge shift.
Literally in the last year, so many girls that like I'm friends, even guys too, are like getting into the industry that maybe like beforehand wouldn't have done it. Even if it's just something small, like waitressing or like stripping or something like that, even if it's not like, escorting or whatever. Yeah, even just having like an OnlyFans or whatever. It's like so many people.
Yeah, it's mad now.
I feel like almost everyone I know has an OnlyFans.
All of Kat's friends. Maybe because you keep telling him to do it.
Everyone should do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get everyone in, and when you need accounting help, get it right. Actually, on that point, like what advice would you give? Say there is a guy or girl out there that is getting into the adult industry, whether that is, stripping or topless waitressing, OnlyFans, escorting, whatever it might be. What advice would you give them starting out in terms of the whole finances, accounting side, business management?
Yeah, look, I say treat it as a business from the start. So have some record keeping and that sort of thing from the start. So you know what you're spending versus what your return is. That's probably the biggest thing. So I know when people start, they'll go to the cameras, the light rings, all that sort of stuff to start filming and keep it pretty basic. Like a lot of people starting now are going too quick, too hard. So they will do a full production setup in, the first 3 weeks of them doing it before they even kind of go down the rabbit hole to see what other people are doing. So, we're trying to obviously keep their expenditure, to a minimum. Start with the industry and see how you like it. Putting yourself out there in all different ways and that sort of thing. That's kind of where things. So A, set up record keeping, and B, obviously try to keep your, your equipment and your spend at the start to a relatively, minimal standpoint. Social media has probably been one of the best marketing tools ever. So obviously using that as much as possible is probably the best thing, just to keep your advertising and promotion spend very, very low. They're probably the two best advice that I'd probably give someone just starting. I'm always open for a chat. Like I don't think I've really sent out that many people just give me a call or some shit. I'm happy to take a call for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. If someone's even curious of getting into the industry, as I said, I'm more edging towards an educational kind of status now, or more so than an actual, accounting firm. It's simply because of the fact that the more I get into it, the more I find that it's just a lack of education. These people are extremely smart. And they can do most of this stuff by themselves. It's just they see it and freak out, and they put their head in the sand. Generally, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I like your reels, and they're very educated. So that's actually how I stumbled across your page. I don't know, one of your reels popped up for me, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" Yeah, not because of what you look like.
Not at all. I found them. I found them super interesting.
You watched them as well, didn't you?
Yeah,
they're
because
very good.
My biggest question, whenever it comes to accounting, is basically, what the fuck can I deduct? Like, I'll be honest. I'm all about deductions. Like, yeah, I mean, you mentioned ring light, cameras, things like that are a little more obvious, but it's like,
What
okay,
else?
I've got 4 students at the moment here in Sydney, and I'm teaching them like how to tie, like use rope. So I need to buy a bunch of rope. So I'm like, yeah, I can deduct that, right? Even though I'll probably keep the rope and use it for myself afterwards. Like, it's like, what? Yeah, it's like, and it's really hard to find on like ATO, the Australian taxation. Like,
They don't
hey,
want you to
can I
know.
deduct rope? Yeah.
They're pretty good. Like the general rule of what they have is if you use it for the performance, you can deduct it.
Perfect.
So, you know, a lot of the big question I always get asked, can I deduct my lip, injectables? And can I get my boobs done and deduct that? And the answer to that one's always no, because you can't take them out after the performance. I reckon I'd look great with a, nice little boobs. And
we're going to set a tits on OnlyFans, right, and marketing. Okay, so if it's something that's permanent, it's a no. If it's something that is essentially
prop.
just used for the performance. So does that mean like if I'm using a vibrator for a performance, can that be deducted? Oh,
Yeah, so things like toys, lubes, condoms, tissues, things like that.
All right.
Wipes.
Tucked away.
Yeah.
So even to the fact that if you've got a performance or something like that, and you're doing your OnlyFans at, on a couch or something like that, and you've got a filming studio or something that's used for filming, you can even deduct that if you really wanted to.
Fuck yeah.
There are some
podcast studio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. If you're creating a revenue against it, anything you create a revenue against, and it's commercial in sense, you can actually deduct it basically.
Yeah, because you could essentially deduct part of your rent. Essentially
I do.
saying, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
all right, sorry, she's much smarter than me.
I but I'm
what I'm saying is I should deduct part of my rent.
I have accounting knowledge already.
Yeah, Kat's she's very intelligent when it comes to this. I'm still learning. So,
that's right. We all are, don't worry. Like, I found that, so that's basically, you've got to be careful with the CGT issues and that sort of stuff. If you own the house, there are some CGT implications and that sort of stuff, and can kind of take part of your main residency exemption from your CGT if you do deduct, these expenses and that sort of stuff for a room or the running costs of a room. That's probably the main red flag that we probably come across that we probably tell people to just be aware of.
I'm curious, how do you keep up to date with the sex worker specific legislation? Because I mean, I've got a few like tax handbooks and things like that. I don't know if if there's a sex worker chapter in like the handbooks that I have. Like, so do you have meetings? So like, do you have meetings and things with like ATO representatives where you guys kind of hash out what is and isn't okay, or is there some database online? I'm curious, like how do you know those things? Because I mean, even me, someone who's has some accounting experience, like I don't think it like specifically says it in my books, like things, you can deduct dildos and condoms in my ATO handbook. Yeah, so like, is there? How do you stay up to date with that?
So obviously there's a lot of like, we call it CPD, which you probably are very aware of. It's continuing professional development and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of my development and that sort of stuff comes from having weekly meetings, generally speaking on a Wednesday morning. And we talk with a whole heap of tax lawyers and that sort of stuff. And we go through dynamics and then how it will affect different industries. Obviously with my, I'm a little bit left field compared to most of them. Generally they are pretty vanilla in their thing. I get to ask all the weird random questions.
I'm sure they must love you at the meeting, They ask you, about this subject, and you're like, so
condoms.
Someone wants to buy a dildo. Let's go. Keep it exciting.
They do actually get a bit of a laugh and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it definitely does lighten the mood a bit.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But it's basically just going through and then going through the guidelines that the ATO provide us. And saying, okay, does this fit within the guidelines of what they deem as accessible? So that's probably the main reason, that sort of stuff. It's just a lot of reading and research and that sort of stuff and going, okay, but 80% of what one person deducts, the next person's going to deduct. So the actual knowledge upkeep isn't as high as what, someone doing transfer pricing or something like that would be, where the ATO cracks down on it a bit harder. Probably the other interesting thing you probably cop is obviously you know when they look in sex workers and that sort of stuff in terms of I guess a judgmental standpoint, it's all. I remember when we started, it was probably actually really hard for even myself to kind of come into the industry, even with some experience and that sort of stuff. I didn't want to promote a client base either. That was very, very hard. Like not to put. I didn't feel like, hey, in generally accounting, you never put your clients on the front page, that sort of stuff. So for me, that was definitely a bit of a weird thing to actually do. And it was very hard to, like, I'm sitting there going, if I don't do this, it's hard to get accepted by, the community as a whole. Because it's quite nichey and quite small. So you can't really get a bad reputation. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges was, especially probably slightly being male actually on this industry, giving advice is actually a little bit harder, to the general broad. I found it doesn't seem to, it took a little bit longer to gain traction.
What do you think that is?
Don't know. I think, with a lot of the, in the sex working industry, I think there's probably more females in it than males. I'm not too sure that's statistically correct.
I think you'd be very right there.
We don't need statistics. That's pretty safe to say that.
And so with that is you'll find that obviously a lot of the female, sex workers, escorts and that sort of stuff have male clients as a general thing. So them getting advice off males probably is always a harder barrier to breach. Like they just see client.
That's true.
And I think what you mentioned before about, they're probably worried about that creepy aspect as well. It's like you're going 100%. Into an account and you're like, look, this is exactly what I did.
I think in a sex worker's mind, like I would know a lot of girls who probably wouldn't feel right about giving money to a guy when they're used to guys giving money to them. I think 100%. It's more that kind of the dynamic. Because I mean, there are girls that I know that are like, they will not have any interaction with any guy unless it's maybe their dad. Unless they're getting paid for it. Like, I'm not even joking. There are some girls that are like that. I think really like that.
We could probably talk about that on the podcast, but I think sex working does, what I've noticed, change a lot of the mentality.
Especially towards men, really. So for a sex worker to give money to a male's technically sex worker still, it's probably a bit weird for them to do.
But I think the thing you have is that the familiarity. It's like someone, he's been there, he's done this.
I think so.
You have the understanding. And that's what I really picked up from your reels is it's like, okay, he gets it, right? I don't feel like it's some accountant just trying to get into some need. Like it's like
you sound like you know what's up,
right? You've been there. You have so what I'm trying to say is you don't have just the knowledge, you have the understanding is what I felt from the reels. So I think it's.
So do you actually have like a fair bit of like sex worker clients? Like have you grown that base since?
Yeah. Look, I think I'm probably, I think we're probably in excess of 50 groups.
Oh, wow.
That's all right. Yeah.
So it's not like there's going to be, I'm sure there's some accounting firms out there that have a lot more, probably in that niche effectively. There probably is out there. I've got no real idea. I don't think I really.
Other like sex worker, like accounting firm. I only know one other one in Australia. So I don't know if that many people are doing it. That's why I find it very interesting.
Yeah, no, super interesting. Yeah. So how can sorry, I was going to say, so how can people get in touch with you? Because I know you mentioned, you gave some advice about some tips, but if there's someone out there that needs an accountant, needs some advice, like what's the best way to go about it?
Probably hit up my Instagram page. Obviously, I've got the Raven_management Instagram page. I've got my website, www.ravenmanagement.com.au. There's also my, email, my personal email address is just ryan@ravenmanagement.com.au. I'm happy to answer questions and that sort of stuff. Give me a call. So, even though they message me on Instagram or anything, just send me a text message or, shoot me a DM, and I'm usually pretty happy to answer it. I think we do have a person that handles my socials and that sort of stuff for the Raven management side. Like that would generally be probably the person that was probably answering you guys, because then I'll get yelled at across the office. Do you want to do this? I'm like, what am I doing? What's going on?
That's awesome.
As I said, that like these client base is very, very, very hands on. And like I'll only take now clients that I can work with, and I'm happy to help out everyone. So as I said, this is why we're going down probably the more educational route, like you guys are. Like, you guys can see that there's a problem in the industry, and there's not as open communication with it. So having, you guys with the knowledge and experience that you guys have, it makes it amazing for other people to go, oh, it's okay to do this. Yeah. Oh, this is actually a thing. And there's people actually talking about it effectively. I found that a lot of OnlyFans people that probably got it in it after the first wave, they went from, oh, I'm going to do some topless photos, and that's what the other girls were doing. So I'm going to make money doing the topless photos, to hardcore porn in about 3 months.
That was literally me.
Welcome.
Yeah.
His cat.
That was me last year. It went OnlyFans, and then, sugar daddying, and then escorting.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope that happens.
Yeah, and it progresses a lot quicker. And now, like, I'm even finding, I'll have someone message me about, a friend of theirs who's asking for help or advice or something like that on setting stuff up. And then you'll start talking to them, and, they wanted to just do some bikini shots or something. And then you'll find out like 2 weeks later, I've hit up this content creator, and we're going to do a scene together. And you're like,
it moves quick like that.
Bikini. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's definitely a rabbit hole. Like once you start going down,
it is. And especially once you start seeing what other people are doing, because like this was what happened with me. So I remember last year, before I started doing escorting, I started on OnlyFans. I remember you were there, and we were like taking photos. Yeah. We were just taking like some. I don't even think I was topless. But then when you start seeing what other people are doing,
someone was spanking your booty or something.
That was one of our friends. Yeah. But then when you start seeing what other girls are doing, and then you start seeing that, you start comparing yourself to other people. It's the same in any industry, like regardless of whether you're in sex work or plumbing or engineering. Like you look at the competition and you say, okay, the more successful people in my industry, what are they doing? And in sex work, the more successful OnlyFans are the ones that are doing porn. Yeah. So if you look at them, they're like, oh, okay, so she's doing porn and I'm not doing porn, and she makes more money than me. Yeah. You're gonna start doing porn.
No, 100%.
That's it. Like it's amazing how that kind of whole thing happens. It's just, like I try to, as I said, when people try to separate their OnlyFans as a business and that sort of stuff, then you're giving them business advice in that regard. And like I always say, try to focus on doing what you want to do, rather than look around too much, because no one, like, adding your own flair or adding your own, environment and that sort of stuff onto it is what draws people in. Yeah. It's why, we've got a few, you get a stripper who's got, a couple of regulars and that sort of stuff. It's creating your own brand. One of our clients and that sort of stuff, he does, he's got quite a professional job on the front, runs a very, very successful healthcare practice. Let's call it healthcare practice. And he started doing the stripping and the topless waitering and all that sort of stuff. So, he went down that path and that sort of stuff, but he still added that professionalism of what he does into his, into the way he acts and the way his brand works. And then you can try to change stuff and that sort of stuff. So as much as you want to look at the competition, you really got to put your own spin on it, because the audience is watching you. They're not watching your competition. Yep. So they want you to do what you do.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's kind of what we've found probably been the most successful. It also increases the stickiness of your following.
Yeah. And I guess you want to do what you are comfortable to. You don't want to be pressured into doing anything just because others are doing it at the same time. So yeah, I think it's good advice, finding that balance between, you need to find your unique value that your audience is going to join you for, but at the same time, getting, I guess, some advice or tips of what other people are doing, finding that balance. So you mentioned, Ryan, you were going to get more into, say, education. What exactly does that look like for you? Like, what are your plans in terms of education?
Yeah, so look, this was a challenge. As I said, I was having a slight challenge with actually getting into this sort of stuff and advertising clients and that sort of stuff. And I think the next stage will kind of be for us. I'll keep pushing the reels and all that sort of stuff. I have been a bit slack lately. I'm not going to lie. It's probably,
I feel
a bit slow on my behalf. So I do apologize to everyone for that one. But it's more so trying to get other people, with me and that sort of stuff to have that conversation and, have people that are going to be a little bit more open with not necessarily dollar amounts. Like obviously that's all, personal, private. I don't really, care too much, but how they look at, running their business and having those conversations, and then we can talk about the deductions and all that sort of stuff if they wanted to, effectively. But it's more so creating that, I guess, it's like a business school for the sex industry.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to put it all out there. It's all going to be free. I'm relatively lucky where we've got a few other bits and pieces, so I don't really need to create any extra income off it. So that's kind of going to be the space. It's going to be basically a free education program and that sort of stuff. And, I've just got to attract probably more people to want to be a little bit more open about it. So what you guys are doing in regards to making it more open is probably actually helping, guys like myself out, where it's easier for other people to be brought in and, they'll talk to that person.
Yeah.
And that's massive for, I guess opening the doors and that sort of stuff a little bit. And also they don't feel they're getting stuck as often these days where, they'll get caught by the ATO or something and then they just put their head in the sand, and any tax lawyer or tax accountant will tell you that the last thing you should be doing is putting your head in the sand because unfortunately the ATO is probably the most powerful organisation in Australia.
Yeah.
It's amazing their powers and that sort of stuff and what they can do. So you're better at communicating with them than not communicating with them because, normally it's innocent until proven guilty in any other situation. However, in this case, it's and in the ATO
you have to prove
eyes,
innocence.
quite literally, Kat, you've nailed it. You've got to prove your innocence with these guys. And that's the big difference between the ATO and every other organisation.
That's crazy.
I've actually got a question about the ATO. My accountant recommended to me, and I know a few other girls in the industry, same thing, is to not say that you do sex work, even though sex work is legal in Australia. But from the eyes of the ATO, apparently they don't like it when you say that. I can't remember exactly what she said, but I think she said they look into you a little bit more, they keep an eye on you more if you declare to them that you're a sex worker, and they pretty much me and everyone else in the industry have been told to say that you do something else, life coaching, consulting.
I didn't even know that.
Whatever.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah. So I'm curious what his thoughts on that are.
Yeah,
And maybe
what's your
it's
advice around that?
changed. Maybe it's changed in the last few years.
I've spoken to a few ATO auditors and that sort of stuff, and they've never really kind of, as long as they're declaring income and it's relevant and they're doing what they should do, they're just another job basically. It's probably more so the finance arm that's probably a little bit more stringent on it. So your banking and that sort of stuff sector, and that's probably because of the risk factor. So there's a massive risk factor in the sex work. If you're doing escorting and that sort of stuff, and all of a sudden you have a bad experience or something like that, you stop work, you stop getting paid. So you're like any other sole trader out there who's a relatively, mum and dad plumbing company effectively, or, whatever you want to, electricians, whatever else, any other normal business. So you're very reliant on yourself. So therefore the risk factor of being a sex worker is very, very high from not paying a loan back or anything else like that. And also because of the past, they look at statistical data. So they look at people and go, okay, look, you've got a loan for this, and there's a high default rate in sex industry and that sort of stuff. So they don't like being associated with a high default rate, and B, the industry, because of the past reputations and the stigmatism and all that sort of stuff that went with it. So the ATO is not that bad, to be honest. It's probably more so on the finance arm than anything else like that. But then you kind of need to change your job description and that sort of stuff. Just to get the loans and that approved faster.
Well, that's what mine says. My ABN says that I'm still an accountant, which I no longer am, but I've got the documentation to say otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. Even payment processes and stuff like that with our websites.
Well,
and
so
everything,
that's why I have
everything in
my
the sex
thing.
industry just makes it more difficult.
Oh, yeah,
because of
payment,
that
they
risk.
suss you out. So thank God I've got like documentation to back up that I had another job, because that's what I put everything as, because my payment processor was like sussing me out the other day, and I was like, here's my university degree and my LinkedIn and shit.
I promise. Oh, that's gold. Yeah, it makes it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it is really challenging. Payment processing was one that I kept stumbling into and that sort of stuff. So there's a few other good ones out there at the moment that kind of let you get around with it and that sort of stuff. I just find that there's a lot of personal trainers out there now. That's probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
There's been a 600% increase in personal trainers since
and life coaches. Life coaching is another one.
Exactly. That's hilarious. Yeah.
This is like another tax question that I want to ask you, because this is the main thing that I get asked. So like a lot of people that I meet, like when they find out that I do sex work and that I have a understanding of business and accounting or whatever, I get a lot of people. So I just want you to back me up on this, because you'll agree with me. But I want everyone listening. I think this is the most number one important like fuck up that I think sex workers do, is the whole. The not wanting to pay tax, or the paying very minimal tax. So what I say to them is that, one, declaring an income, and two, paying tax it's a good thing, because then when you want to, rent something or buy a car or invest your money in the stock exchange or crypto or whatever, like if you want to invest your money legally, then you can't do that. So I want to hear on your take of what your advice would be to a sex worker whose main goal, which so many of it is, and I disagree, is to avoid tax or pay very minimal tax.
Yeah, look, obviously anyone who has dealt in the finance industry and understands how that works, you want to pay a little bit of tax. You want to show income growth and all those sort of things. And the main reason comes down to investing. If you don't show an income, you can't invest in anything, or else it raises a massive red flag with the ATO, because obviously you're surviving off something and you're not declaring it. So that raises a red flag, and that's doing what you're not meant to do, which is what gives the sex industry a bad name to begin with. Without showing an income and that sort of stuff, you can't apply for a mortgage. You can't really, if you were start investing in shares, for instance, you've got to show where that money's coming from. They're the major reasons. So, Kat, you're 100% right. Like, I try to get people to, declare what they should, in order to, further their life, further their investments. Because you got to understand that if you're not investing, as sole business owners and sole income providers, we don't get super paid into us like other employees and that sort of stuff. We have to actually pay super. So that money's got to come from somewhere. So there's no retirement plan for any of these girls and that sort of stuff, or guys or actors, performers. There's no later to it. And unfortunately, this industry is good for people that will do a 2-year or 3-year burst. They'll leave. They'll work out that they've got nothing to fall back on that can earn as much income as what they were earning. They might be able to get another job, and it might give them, a very solid and acceptable salary of, say, $80,000, $90,000 a year. But compared to what they were earning, it's not even close. So that's probably the big thing, where we kind of encourage them to, declare what they should, to actually show that they can actually invest money, so that they can invest for their future. That's probably the biggest thing of, why we do the educational part, basically.
Yeah.
So
I needed that on the record, because I hate it when I hate it when people come to me and they're like, I don't want to pay tax. It's like, no, trust me, you want to be paying tax.
Yeah. Enough to show that you fucking got some money coming.
No, I pay. So I declare everything, and I pay a ridiculous amount of tax, but that's because I know that eventually I'm going to want to take out big loans.
Yeah, and
fair. I can't take, if I'm only declaring like $20,000 a year, which I know some people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm just going to declare the 19,000, which is I think one of the threshold rates, and I'll just declare that. And I'm like, nah, but then like, what about when you want to take a $1 million loan out one day? They're going to say, oh, you want $1 million loan, but you're only making $19,000 a year. So I pay like a ridiculous amount of taxes. I want big loans in the future.
That's it. It's all about, trying to invest and save for your future and that sort of stuff. So, we've got like clients will come to us, and then be like, oh, well, I'm coming to you now and I want a house. I'm like, have you declared any income in the past? They're like,
ever.
oh, no. I'm like, okay. So what history does, we won't even talk about the ATO side of things. We just talk about the banking side of things. I'm like, the bank needs to show that you're making money so that you can pay the loan back.
Yeah.
But I've got this cash.
Yeah.
I'm like, the bank doesn't really care about the cash that you've got under the mattress.
Bed,
Sorry. Just, they're pulling it out of their underwear and whatever else, and, that sort of stuff. And it's just like, unfortunately, guys, the bank wants records and that sort of stuff. It needs to be put into their system, security and all that sort of stuff. And the better your history, the easier it is to get a loan. If you've actually shown documentation of this is what you do, we've got, earning good income and that sort of stuff, you'll get the loan. It's not overly that hard, because now I cop a client who obviously hasn't paid anything for a while, and it takes us effectively nearly 18 months before they can purchase a house, where if they kept their record keeping from the start or earlier, that 3 months, not even, probably 3 months, we could probably have a house or, start some sort of investment, whatever they want to look into and that sort of stuff, wherever they want to put their money, we can start a lot earlier.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't know the stats on this, but sex work isn't forever for most people, right? It is an industry where a lot of people come in and there's
that MILF category is getting pretty big.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's even a gilf. Gilf is don't laugh.
Right, maybe
don't
sex,
laugh.
maybe
Oh
sex
my
work
god!
is forever.
No, guys, you just need to get on Twitter. The gilf industry. Oh my god! Yeah, that's the new thing. Forget milfs. It's gilfs now.
Well, fuck it. We're in here forever, guys. So, but those that are not even from a demand point of view, and I'm saying like you get too old for it, but I know a lot of people that do get into sex work, they make a bunch of money for a couple of years and then
they get out.
Or, they're not enjoying it, or they're burnt out a little bit, or maybe they want to, there's relationship issues that fall into it. Maybe they, the person they're with doesn't want them doing sex work. There's loads of reasons, but there is a lot of churn rate, I would say, like people coming in and out. And that would be my biggest advice. Like, you're making all this money, perhaps in this very short-term time, you need to have a plan. And I think it's the last thing people think about when they enter sex work.
Yeah, is life after sex work.
Life after sex work, my accounting, my finances. It's, they're so worried about everything else. And it's the mistake I made essentially when getting into business as well the first time. And it's like my biggest advice for anyone out there that is getting into sex work, or you're already in it and you don't have a plan, is you need to speak to someone. You need to have some advice, some mentorship, some education around it, because you're going to thank yourself later when you do that, for sure.
Oh, 100%. Like, even with guys that have done really, really well, and they'll have very, very large savings, cash under the mattress and that sort of stuff, and they go, I'm just going to go buy a house, but they've stopped work.
Yeah.
So therefore, their income has dropped significantly, and all of a sudden they've got all this cash sitting there that they can't really invest in anything, because the bank has no history, or their broker will come to them and go, "Well, I need your history, I need your BASs, what have you got?" And they've got nothing. It does limit with what they can do after
after they finish PT, after they finish
PT, exactly.
PT.
It's tough.
That's so funny.
Did you want to ask anything else, Kat? I got my dildo tax return question out of the way. So.
No, not particularly. Yeah, no, nothing else. But I think I will just say as well, on the record, is that me as well, speaking as someone who is, like, I could do my own accounts if I wanted to, but I encourage everyone to hire a professional, because especially with something like sex work, it is very niche. And even me having the knowledge that I do, which is more knowledge than most people
Kat's
that I know in the industry. For those that don't know. It's true. Yeah, but I've got accounting knowledge. I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I understand accounting. I have enough knowledge of accounting to do them myself, but I still don't, because especially with tax, it's very niche. And I didn't actually do tax before, so I specialize in a different area of accounting. So even I wouldn't do my own taxes myself, and I actually could. Yeah. So the first thing I say to everyone is hire a professional, because even if you could do your accounts yourself, like, you could be missing out on a lot of deductions and things that a professional would be able to get for you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I noticed when I actually hired someone that first year. it's whatever I paid them, I saved in all the shit I wouldn't have realized I could save. So yeah, it'd be silly not to. So if any PTs out there or accountants,
PTs or accountants,
yeah,
need an accountant.
Yeah, you can get in contact with Ryan. We'll pop your Instagram and everything, all your details, your emails, and that.
Legend, guys, so, appreciate that,
dude. It's been great to chat to you. I love what you're doing. It's niching down to this is exciting. It's fun. I think. Keep the reels going, man. I've been enjoying them. So.
And check your DMs. I might be sliding.
Start your only, and we'll put your OnlyFans in the description. The new one that's getting created.
Everyone. Wait for our video to drop, guys.
with Kat and Ryan is what it'll be called.
new collaboration.
That's awesome.
Look, not on the, what is it? We call it freaking the sheets or something like that.
I feel like he's down.
Yeah, it's happening.
Is that it? I think it was a yes.
I've got the first scene planned for you too. So
I heard that as it. I'm taking it.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. I'm sure everyone that's was interested in their own sort of journey in the sex industry is taking a lot from this. So thank you so much.
No, please, guys. If I don't record anything or push something out, I blame you guys. So you guys are going to keep pushing me to keep smashing it out. All right.
We'll do. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you guys, man. See you guys later.
All right. Cheers, man.